think we'll go ahead. This is a wonderful occasion for all of us here in Seattle. Welcome to the Seattle Shambhala Meditation and Cultural Center. And welcome to Shambhala altogether. We are speaking today locally, but our recording is going to be going internationally to lots of parent groups within Shambhala in the United States, in Europe, in South America, in Europe, and New Zealand, Australia. There's a rising interest, as it should be, in families and children and developing a culture of kindness. That's coming from our meditation practice and also from the leadership of Sakyam Nipan Rinpoche and Sakyam and his wife, called Sakyam Nipan. So it's kind of a new day. And I'm privileged to be part of it as a grandmother. I've been meditating for over 30 years, and I started, my children were 10, 12, and 14, all girls, and then I somehow managed to be a parent and a meditator, which is what we're going to talk about today. How do we do that? And then they grew up, and I became a teacher in meditation practice in Shambhala, and been part of a lot of groups, starting in rural British Columbia, a place called the Kootenays, and being a big contemplative center called Carmicholing, and Berkeley, California, Seattle, down in Bellingham. So I like the excitement of creating a place and a time and some kind of teachings for families and children, and meeting the challenge of having a personal meditation practice and being a responsible, loving, compassionate, wise mother and father, parent, aunt and uncle, even grandparent. So it's most challenging for the parents because of all the scheduling and time and mixed loyalties of oneself and one's children, what they want you to do and what you want to do. So we've called this whole series, it's all about what's called parenting as path. I'd like to say a little something about the notion of path in Shambhala and the Buddhist meditation tradition as well, and also path as a parent. And in some ways it boils down to, it suggests and kind of boils down to learning as we go. That both in meditating and in parenting, we're not quite sure of the territory. We get started. We're inspired and ready, but most of the time, sometimes not. But we're not quite sure what to do and how to do it, and how to create a life, a genuine, authentic life as a parent and also as a meditator, without either inner or outer conflict, or minimizing the natural situations that come up from day to day and week to week, and we try to do both. So I feel very connected to both our main teacher, the Sakyong, and the fact that he's a part of a family, and his wife, and their two girls, that we are in a meditation tradition. It's called a family lineage. So 30 years later, we're now focusing on the family part. And you are this wonderful group in Seattle, this thoughtful and energetic group of parents that I met a few weeks ago here to kind of get a sense of who you were and what your interests were. You're really providing some stability by just being here and by listening, by being interested in having your children here, for this to continue. I'm very grateful to you for being here, for being able to participate in it. So to talk a little bit more about path and creating the similarity between your path of meditation and your path of parents, of a sense of learning and even awakening to what it means. I remember being a parent of small children, and especially when they're first born. I'm sure this isn't done anymore, but my husband and I, reading Dr. Spock endlessly, like everything that came up. It wasn't, we weren't in the kind of culture where you could call your mom and want her advice. I mean, she might give it to you, and it might be fine, but it might be different from what your vision of what you would like your life to be with your children and how you are and the chemistry of who these parents are. And so there's a lot of unknowing in being a parent. And unknowing is part of this path, kind of learning as you go along. And along with that unknowing is a basic quality of discovery in meditation, which is called uncertainty. It's cultivated in meditation, actually, that you get kind of below the surface of thinking you can know everything and control everything, to realizing that there's so many interrelated forces that go on in our life and our emotions that from moment to moment, we might really not know exactly what to do. And that's where community and culture really help. And in Shambhala, we want to put energy into that, into having a common sense of vision. The Sakya, calling it a culture of kindness and basic goodness. And then having activities that support that vision and educational programs and conversations, especially people getting to know each other and help each other out. One of the outcomes of the meeting that we had with a smaller group was interest in working together to help each other with the child care rides and kind of filling in with schedules that people seem to need who work full-time, which many of you do. I think there was only one person who wasn't working full-time who's developed a life, honest life without working full-time and a strong family. So all of you are very impressed on how dedicated you are to your families. So this notion of uncertainty, both as a sort of essence of path and a very strong feature in path, the word path. And so in the meditation tradition, particularly with the Buddha as a central figure, there's a sense that you have a guide, someone else who has walked that path. And in some ways, we're going to be providing it for each other. But in some ways, we can follow some of the guidance from the meditation practice, and I think we are inspired in doing that because there's 2,500 years of practicing calm abiding, actually trusting and meditating and feeling the benefit of that and passing it on to the next generation that's been going on. So we're kind of interested in meditation for that reason, because it's reliable, trustworthy, and it actually, in trying it out, I think we could all agree that probably, or we wouldn't even be coming around to the center, that there's something fundamentally, basically good about what happens when we sit, even for short periods of time. So the aspiration to bring the path quality of parenting together with this path that you're working on as a meditator, as somebody who's interested in going deeper, making a relationship with your mind, warmth, and understanding, can all kind of fit together. So I think it's not recognized enough in meditation, in the meditative tradition, and especially in the West, which is a very busy place and not a lot of value placed on calm abiding, because what does it get? You know? What's the value? But I think more and more in our culture even, and as we mature, we realize how very important it is. And also as we mature with the uncertainty of our families and what to do and how to develop a good family, how important calm abiding could be. How important basic goodness, recognizing that in spite of all the ups and downs, each person in our family, and our collective families, is basically good by nature, their inherent nature. And we all, when we have children, when we look at them, I think a lot of us, our first question is, as soon as we recover a little bit from the excitement, who are you? So this path of discovering who we are as people through meditation practice, and then bringing some kind of calm abiding into our family, could be very, very helpful in generating a situation in which everybody will benefit from. So this is assisted by places like the Shambhala Center, and also by community, which is part of the Shambhala Center. But now you all will be creating your own community of the parents with children. You'll get to know each other. And we'll have some kind of educational program that goes along with that in terms of deepening our understanding of being a contemplative parent, if I could dare to say, you know, with support for doing this. So that's the aspiration in the Families and Children Working Group that I became part of in the fall. And I'm a senior teacher. I don't feel like I can give, a lot of resources have already been developed about what to do with kids, and actually Shambhala has already developed quite a good culture for children. It's particularly focused in the major kind of centers of Shambhala, like Boulder and Halifax, and the contemplative centers all have family camps. You even have one here in the summer on Whidbey Island. Family camps and children's programs, sometimes called Bodhi School. Bodhi means awakened heart. On Sunday, kids go to Bodhi School. And they've been happening kind of in waves. There have been times when nothing's happening, and times when, like now, it's starting to happen. So, but it mostly happens because people work together to make it happen. And there's room for it. And Mr. Gaylord is very committed. It didn't take much arm twisting on my part. This is important. This is the future. So welcome. That's a long introduction. So you might understand a little bit more if we look at parenting as path, parenting and your practice, bringing them together into your households and into your life. You might understand the second part of the subtitle of the talk today, and the 4 talks that will be presented over the year through the working group will all be different, but this particular one is subtitled Being Brave and Balancing. So being brave relates to mainly it relates to self-doubt. We're never quite sure what we're doing is the best thing that we could do. And especially in regard to our children. They know us so well. They know that we have self-doubt even. And I don't know if you agree, but this was my experience. They can get right in there with the self-doubt and make you feel guilty. I don't know, again, it's been a while, but when my children were young, the most disturbing thing they could say to me was, "Mommy, I'm bored." And this was before I meditated, and once I started meditating, I realized how valuable boredom is. How nice. But it's a little a hard sell for children. At the same time, we can be more proactive with the notion of being quiet, being still, having nothing going on and kind of being interested in using your senses and kind of looking up at the sky, taking time to be with them. It's particularly potent in nature, where you actually take time with them where you're not filling it up. So creating spaces where we as examples aren't filling it up, so that the kind of natural quietness can develop, can be very life-changing for yourself and for them, and it takes the doubt kind of out of things. Although you'll still have that to work with, you still, moment to moment, being a parent requires being brave, making decisions, not knowing for sure whether your decisions are right, whether you're going to, personally go out after you've made dinner and come to the center and listen to a talk when you've been gone all day and they want you. Or even sometimes one parent will be interested and the other won't, and parents sort of, maybe the couple doesn't always agree, and you have things tearing at you that way, heartful things, important things, where the second part of this discussion this morning has to do with balancing and not always knowing for sure whether your decision is going to be exactly the right one. I remember when I was here last time, someone couldn't come up to our meeting because their child was screaming in childcare, or was at least very clinging in childcare. And you just don't know whether to leave them or not, right? Yeah, and so this has happened to all of us in other circumstances as well, when we wanted to do something, and they basically freak out. No, they don't want you to do it. They're scared or whatever. They know what to say to you. They know your hooks, even the smaller ones. I don't know how they do this, but they're very wise. So you have to decide. And you don't know if you decided right. And you could leave them, and 2 minutes later they could be quiet and you don't hear a thing. And even if you do hear something for a while, you start feeling badly for the person who has to do the calming down. So if you leave them, you feel doubt. And if you don't leave them, you think, well, maybe I'm not being brave enough. Maybe they're just getting me, hooking me again, like always. And this is an extra, I'd say, curricular activity. It's not like I have to go to work or have to do something that's important. I've come here out of, friendship and interest in meditating, but I'm not quite sure. So they know that. So we're always facing that doubt. We're always having a sense of bravery, actually, in making decisions and in trusting ourselves and looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture includes all of our family, and includes our culture and society, and it includes time. Like, we're building a future for those children, and a future for ourselves. When you get to be the age that I am, a grandmother whose grandchildren are now 19 and 23, so sorry to say, you're happy that you were a nice mother and you had a nice family situation, because they start being really the role switch, and you feel comforted in these people that we all grew up together, and we were all different, and we all had our challenges together, actually have some natural connection of responsibility and love and kindness. And when they start telling us what to do, it's a little hard, but we kind of have enough life experience to just be quiet and smile. Thank you. On a good day. Anyway, the communication now with all of us at all levels, including our children, is so intense with the kinds of media outlets we all have. So that's a factor we're not going to talk about today. But being brave is actually encouraging us all, encouraging ourselves to look at the doubt, to make your best move like you did, you know.
She was fine now.
She was fine now. and to just go with it. And in order to support that, community is really, really wonderful. Really, really good, really strengthening, really stabilizing, really clarifying our motives and why we're here. When you find other people are here for the same reasons, have the same kinds of patterns of doubt, and also the same strength in some way in regard to children. So, and this is supported by our meditation practice. So, are there any questions about that, about the notion of being brave in this regard to your own self-doubt? Does everyone have self-doubt? Maybe some people don't. No self-doubt?
No, I'm saying.
Maybe this is the greatest arena of it. So I just wanted to offer that, to be encouraging, and us all to acknowledge that this is a path. And the path involves learning to trust ourselves, learning to be able to calm down ourselves, and to be able to see things as they are, and to be confident in our approach, the kindness, basic goodness approach that you really do believe in these kids. They could be holy terrors to everyone else, but we always think that they've got basic goodness. And what they find out about this in life, the image is always used both in the Buddhist tradition and Shambhala, is you use the kindness of your own mother to understand bodhicitta, or basic goodness. That's everyone's example. So when this was first introduced to the United States students of Trungpa Rinpoche, there was a lot of people who didn't like their mother. But when you come right down to it, who got up with you in the middle of the night? You know, who helped you along the way? You know, maybe in a style that you would not repeat, but there was something unconditionally connected, and that's what we can feel with each other, with our own children. So, in bringing those worlds together, I did some research, and I went to the families and the Families in Shambhala resource book that I recommended to you last time. Well, there's some talks from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche when he was establishing a school in Boulder called Alia, and also when people were starting to have children and families were developing, there was a lot of encouragement for family at the time. And that question of how to be a meditator and a family person came right up. Because at that time, the retreats were longer and the expectations were greater. Now, for sitting, where you might be asked to sit 20 minutes at a time, at that time it was 1 hour. So the retreats were expecting you to pull more time away from your family. So it was even a little harder, but he had some really helpful things to say about children. And some of them were in talks just to parents, and some of them were in talks in connection with the school that was starting in Boulder, preschool and eventually in elementary school. I've also been an administrator at a Waldorf school, so this notion of developing whole children using all the different body, speech, and mind activities and ways of being together, not just putting all the focus on super competitive conceptual skills. But I know that we're not unique in this, but it's helpful to have it in a way that fits into our meditation practice directly, like his comments seem to. So I'm going to talk about discipline, and I'm going to talk about stillness, some suggestions, and the third thing I wanted to add as a way. Meditation is a way. The path is a way. This could be a way. Is friends. That they're so important to the children especially, and to us as well, because we know how important to the children they are. And so how to look at friendship in a Shambhala culture, basic goodness culture. So the discipline, are people interested in discipline? Okay. This might be where the uncertainty comes up the most. Discipline is interesting. And in fact, the instruction for meditation and for parenting, you could say is the same. And it's a little slogan. You've probably heard it because my students, I'm a meditation instructor, often come back to me with it when I'm not even thinking about it. And it's not too tight and not too loose. So it seems simple and maybe obvious, not too tight and not too loose. And the image of, it wasn't a guitar in those days, but this musician going to the Buddha and asking him how can he play good music? And he asked him about tuning his instrument. And he said, not too tight and not too loose. And this was an analogy for your own mind. And also an analogy for how to practice that kindness and regard for others. So not too tight and not too loose. It doesn't figure it out for you because, as we said before, the path is kind of figuring out as you go along and learning from the feedback. But it's very helpful because we never know if we're being too tight or too loose. But